Happy Football Sunday, everybody. It's time for picks and predictions for week number 9 of the NFL. And starting off, of course, with our pick from the Thursday night game. I don't know anybody who did not pick the Philadelphia Eagles, likely the strongest team in the NFL currently, with a perfect record thus far. Nobody was going to pick against them, certainly not for Houston. However, it needs to be recognized and applauded that Philadelphia only managed to score a total of 29 points while Houston scored 17. That's a much better showing than I think anybody predicted, but let's move on to the actual Sunday picks, because the first matchup is the Los Angeles Chargers up against the Atlanta Falcons. I think it's a relatively easy pick. I'm going to go with the Chargers. Atlanta, though they've been showing a couple of skills the last couple of weeks, it's done nothing to impress me so much that I want to pick against the Chargers in this matchup. Jumping over to the next game, we have Miami Dolphins up against the Chicago Bears. And in a similar vein, Miami might be a middle-of-the-pack team, but Chicago is not. Chicago is much below that. Chicago Bears have not done anything that has impressed me all year, so I'm going with Miami. Then we have Cincinnati Bengals and the Carolina Panthers. Now, even though my stance on Cincinnati has not changed, I think that the expectation for Cincinnati to be as great as they've been talked about ever since week 1, just they have not showed that to me. However, Carolina, once again, in the same breath, Cincinnati is clearly the better of the two teams, and I really think I have to go with Cincinnati on this one. Though it doesn't mean I'm not going to pick the Panthers in future games, because they seem to be getting their motor running in the last couple of weeks. Then we jump over to Green Bay Packers up against the Detroit Lions. Now, an easy pick from history would tell you to pick the Packers. And realistically, Detroit Lions aren't looking so hot. But the same can be said for Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. I think this is one of their most inconsistent and abysmal years in the last 2 decades. The Green Bay Packers have done nothing to show us that they can actually win a game these days. But, however, something is just telling me I think they're going to come out swinging against the Detroit Lions. I really don't think Detroit, at the very least, I think it's going to be a game that's down to the wire. I don't think it's going to be a blowout on either side, but this week I will give the Packers another shot. Jumping on to the next game, we have the New England Patriots up against the Indianapolis Colts, and though it pains me to do this, I'm going to pick Bill Belichick and the Patriots over Indianapolis, because both teams, this was honestly probably my first pick where I sort of went, I juggled it. I think it's a 50-50 shot. I don't think it's as easy as people think. People think that New England is still the Tom Brady New England, and they're just not. So I think people are over-expecting from New England. That being said, I'm still going to go with the Patriots. The next game is just an easy pick. Buffalo Bills up against the New York Jets. Now, normally I am one of the people that definitely agree that division rivalries are different. Division matchups are different. So New York has been known, the Jets have been known to beat Tom Brady and the Patriots. Been known to beat Buffalo Bills and Miami, of course, even when they were the worst team in the league by the numbers. So, though I can understand why some people want to pick the Jets as their upset, I don't see any reason to. So, we're going with Buffalo. Jumping over to the Minnesota Vikings up against the Washington Commanders. Now, I believe that I have a perfect record when picking Washington, both their wins and their losses. And I don't plan to stop that streak now, so I'm going to be picking the Vikings. I'm sorry. I don't think Washington can defeat the Minnesota Vikings. They might get close. Washington has been improving since week 1, certainly not going backwards, but that doesn't mean that they can contend with a team like Minnesota, so I'm going with the Vikings for this pick. But any given Sunday, so you never know what happens. The next game up is the Las Vegas Raiders up against Jacksonville Jaguars, and I'm going with Jacksonville for the sole reason that I feel weird not picking at least a couple of teams that I think are upsets, and also because the Raiders, inconsistent, and I hate the Raiders, so I'm betting a little bit with this one today. Then we have the Arizona Cardinals up against the Seattle Seahawks, and I made the mistake of not picking Seattle a couple of times. Not going to make that mistake again. I don't think Arizona is doing anything hugely momentum of any type of momentum this year, so I'm going with Seattle Seahawks to beat the Arizona Cardinals. Tampa Bay Buccaneers up against the Rams. Like a lot of people, I think I'm going to be picking against Tom Brady this week. You know, it's very odd to be choosing to pick against Tom Brady like it's an easy choice, but for a lot of people, I think it is. This doesn't mean that Tom Brady's not going to win any more games, but I still think he hasn't recovered from whatever's been going on. So I really think that the Rams are going to take full advantage of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this week. Then we have the Kansas City Chiefs up against the Tennessee Titans, and I hovered with the idea of picking the Titans, but I'm going to have to go with Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. I think that's a pretty solid bet. And finally, for our Monday night game, I'm going to be picking the underdog. I'm going with the New Orleans Saints to beat the Baltimore Ravens, because once again, Baltimore can put 30 points on the board in 2 quarters, no problem, and then not score the rest of the game and let the opponent catch up. Or they can have a down-to-the-wire tight game, which comes to the end of the 4th quarter. So they have not been showing that they are blowing out teams. No matter how many points they put on the board, they then allow the other team to come back just as strong. And I think New Orleans knows this, and they are willing and ready to take advantage of Baltimore's seemingly only playing 2 out of the 4 quarters of any game this year. So that being said, those are my picks. What did you guys think? Let me know, and we'll see you guys back here for next week on week number 10 of the NFL for picks and predictions. See you later, everybody. Have a lovely Sunday.